How did the history of the Americas begin? Throughout human history, few regions evoke as much wonder and mystery as the Americas. For decades, the timeline of when humans first set foot in the Americas had been regarded as almost unshakable. A new discovery in Oregon is creating a shift in that long-standing perception in a way few anticipated. Sediment layers that once appeared familiar have revealed traces so ancient that researchers are compelled to re-examine foundations of knowledge that have existed for many years. Now let's examine the theory that was once treated as standard. The Clovis first theory long held a central position in archaeological research on the settlement of North America. This model proposes that humans appeared on the continent around 13,000 years ago, based on a system of evidence viewed as stable and widely accepted. For decades, the foundation of Clovis first rests on the opening of an ice-free corridor that emerged after the Laurentide and Cordilleran ice sheets receded. Once this corridor appeared, people were believed to have traveled on foot from Siberia through Alaska into the interior of North America near the end of the Ice Age. Clovis tools form a key element supporting this hypothesis. Fluted spear points found at many locations across the continent created a widespread and consistent distribution network. Their form indicates sophisticated craftsmanship and a clear purpose in hunting large animals. Clovis first aligns with environmental conditions at the end of the Ice Age. As the climate warmed, the ice corridor became accessible, providing a pathway for movement from the north into the central regions of the continent. This geological context led many scholars to view Clovis first as a reasonable explanation at the time. The value of Clovis first also lies in the simplicity of its model. It proposes a single migration origin, a clear route, and a unified system of artifacts. Its coherence allowed the theory to become a long-standing standard in teaching and research, with almost no significant opposition. As dating methods improved, several pre-Clovis findings began to surface. These sites produced ages far older than 13,000 years, creating a clear gap with the established model. Their continued emergence prompted researchers to consider the possibility of earlier human populations. Monte Verde in Chile became one of the earliest sites to draw major attention. A date of more than 14,000 years created a notable contrast with Clovis first. Its body of evidence, including living structures and food traces, demonstrated clear signs of settlement. In addition to Monte Verde, the Cooper's Ferry site in Idaho provided dates surpassing the Clovis threshold. Ages above 16,000 years were supported by stable sediment layers and closely associated artifacts, indicating human presence in the interior at a very early time. Even so, earlier pre-Clovis sites had not reached a level of consensus. Some researchers argued that more conclusive evidence was needed from North America, often viewed as the starting point of the migration process. The absence of a decisive discovery allowed the debate over Clovis first to continue. Different dating methods applied across various sites had once raised questions. Some results required additional verification, slowing the shift toward a new model. Scientific caution led many experts to maintain the traditional view until stronger evidence appeared. Many pre-Clovis locations presented complex geological contexts that had been criticized for potential sediment disturbance. This contributed to the careful acceptance of older dates. Research demanded a combination of stable evidence, particularly at sites expected to redefine the timeline. Before Rimrock Draw was examined in depth, the archaeological community lacked a site containing intact sediment layers, clear tools, and dates surpassing the Clovis threshold. The emergence of Rimrock Draw therefore represented an important turning point in reassessing the entire model. Although Clovis first had been a strong framework, accumulated evidence indicates the need for a more complex view of early settlement. Humans may have migrated along multiple routes, not solely through the interior corridor.
This opens broader avenues for archaeological research in North America. Recent research trends focus on the potential existence of widely distributed pre-Clovis populations. This perspective draws on data from scattered sites, suggesting a pattern that cannot be explained by the Clovis first model. Settlement structures may have taken shape far earlier than previously thought. Everything changed when archaeologists arrived at a small rock shelter in eastern Oregon, a location that became a historic turning point. The Rimrock Secret. Rimrock Draw is located in eastern Oregon within a dry plateau region marked by harsh natural conditions during the Ice Age. The site lies far from both the coastline and the glacial corridor, creating a geographic isolation distinct from many other archaeological locations in North America. The position of Rimrock Draw falls under the jurisdiction of the United States Bureau of Land Management, also known as the BLM. In 2009, this agency recorded the presence of a shallow rock shelter, which opened the direction for initial surveys. The assessment of the terrain structure laid the groundwork for the excavation plans that followed.
By 2011, the archaeological team from the University of Oregon began systematic excavation under the coordination of Patrick O'Grady. The excavation work was carried out according to standards that controlled each soil layer, ensuring clear separation between sediment levels so the scientific data would not be affected. The structure of Rimrock Draw is a shallow but stable rock shelter, providing natural protection for the sediments against disturbance. The overhanging rock limited the effects of weather, root intrusion, and soil displacement, allowing the layers to remain intact over long periods. At the beginning of the research, archaeologists only expected to find traces of humans from a late phase of the Ice Age. Previous evidence from surrounding areas indicated the likelihood of a later timeline. This led the team's initial predictions away from searching for traces of significantly older age. Annual excavations were carried out through an archaeological field school format, attracting students and researchers. Each soil layer was removed using standardized techniques, ensuring artifacts were recorded at the correct location. The accumulated data gradually created a systematic picture of the sediment structure. As the excavation went deeper, the team encountered a volcanic ash layer originating from Mount St. Helens. This ash layer dates to more than 15,600 years and was identified through independent geological methods. It forms an important dividing layer because any artifact beneath it must be older than the time of the ashfall. The volcanic ash layer acts as a natural reference marker, helping eliminate any concerns about sediment disturbance. Its intact preservation demonstrates that sediment deposition occurred in order, without influence from collapse or movement by humans or animals after the ash settled. The discovery of tools and animal bones beneath the ash layer shifted the direction of the research. Each artifact was recorded with a high level of detail to ensure accuracy in determining age. The relationship between the artifacts and the ash layer made the chronological conclusions increasingly clear. Some areas of Rimrock Draw also show sediment sealed naturally through slight compression from the rock shelter. This preservation created a continuous data sequence, allowing clear identification of soil accumulation phases across different times without interruption from external factors. Microstratigraphic analysis was applied to further clarify soil structure. The results show each layer has distinct mineral compositions, reflecting independent formation processes. This finding strengthens the conclusion that no later interference altered the order of artifacts. The spatial coordinates of each stone tool and bone fragment were recorded using a three-dimensional grid, enabling precise alignment with the sediment layers. This documentation ensures that conclusions about age rely not on assumptions, but on directly recorded field data. The data gathered throughout the excavation increased archaeological interest in Rimrock Draw. The way sediments and artifacts interlink distinguishes the site from other locations that had sparked debate because of heavy disturbance or unclear context.
As excavation continued, the presence of multiple stable layers extending downward positioned Rimrock Draw as one of the most promising locations for establishing ancient settlement timelines. The scale of sediment preservation has made the area a subject of dedicated research, and what astonished the entire archaeological world were the artifacts found deep beneath the ancient volcanic ash layer. The 18,000-year trace. The orange agate stone tools found in the deepest soil layers of Rimrock Draw indicate the presence of humans far earlier than previously accepted. The non-local mineral origin suggests movement or material exchange across more distant regions. In 2012, the excavation team discovered a scraper tool that still retained ancient bison proteins, identified as Bison antiquus. Protein analysis shows the tool once made direct contact with fresh animal tissue, reinforcing the conclusion that animal processing took place at Rimrock Draw. Another tool found in 2015 lay beneath the Mount St. Helens ash layer, indicating an age even older than the first tool. Its position removes any concern regarding sediment disturbance. The stability of the soil layer further strengthens confidence in assessing the artifact's age. Alongside stone tools, the team recorded enamel fragments belonging to the ancient camel, Camelops histernus, and bones from ancient bison. These pieces were located in undisturbed soil layers and appeared together with stone flakes, forming a close connection between human activity and local animals at the site. Several bone fragments display sharp-edged cut marks, consistent with stone tool use rather than carnivore teeth. The distinct angles of these marks are seen as indicators of meat removal or soft tissue extraction, supporting evidence of animal processing. Radiocarbon dating was applied to the camel enamel. The analysis returned a result of approximately 18,250 years, far earlier than the 13,000-year benchmark associated with Clovis first. This is important because radiocarbon directly reflects the age of organic material at the time of its existence. Comparing the locations of the tools and bone fragments shows a strong association between humans and native animals. The tools appear in the same layer as Camelops histernus and Bison antiquus bones, creating a consistent archaeological context of survival activities at Rimrock Draw. Small flakes collected around the scraper area show signs of on-site tool shaping and modification. Their presence is not accidental because the stable stratigraphy confirms they were created exactly where they were found, without displacement from other layers. Some tools show wear along their edges, consistent with processing animal hides or softer materials. Microscopic analysis reveals both pulling and pushing motions, providing clearer identification of how the tools were used. These details help evaluate the function of each type of artifact. The combination of tools, bones, flakes, and ash layer forms a multi-layered system of evidence. This is what makes Rimrock Draw distinctive. Each component contributes to a unified chain of data based on direct field observation rather than speculation. The presence of tools made from non-local stone increases the value of the artifact collection. This indicates that early human groups had a certain level of mobility, not confined to a limited area. Researchers interpret this as a sign of movement networks broader than previously estimated. Another notable element lies in the repetition of activities. Cut marks on bones and the distribution of flakes across many locations in the same soil layer show humans used Rimrock Draw numerous times. This repetition reflects the sustainability of the site as a living area. The artifacts from Rimrock Draw are considered a rare assemblage because they combine stone tools, bones with cut marks, and organic samples suitable for direct dating. In reality, many pre-Clovis sites lack one of these components, making their timelines less definitive. These undeniable findings have formally overturned the older theory and opened a new chapter in the human migration story across the Americas. Rewriting the journey. The discovery at Rimrock Draw places strong pressure on the Clovis first model because dates exceeding 18,000 years fall far outside the time frame.
Once considered the beginning of human presence in North America, this evidence shows that occupation of the continent did not start around 13,000 years ago. Instead, Rimrock Draw extends the timeline into a period that earlier explanatory frameworks could not accommodate. An age older than 18,000 years corresponds with the last glacial maximum, when the Laurentide and Cordilleran ice sheets fully covered the continental interior. These ice masses formed a continuous frozen barrier across central North America. Movement through the interior corridor was impossible during this period because no ice-free overland route existed. Any attempt to cross the interior would have encountered vast expanses of ice extending for thousands of miles. The absence of an interior passage redirects attention toward the Pacific coastal migration model. This model proposes that early humans traveled by watercraft along the Pacific shoreline. A productive kelp forest zone extended from the North Pacific southward, providing abundant marine resources. Fish, shellfish, sea mammals, and nutrient-rich plants could sustain migrating groups over long distances and support gradual movement along the coast. The Kelp Highway hypothesis outlines a migration path from Siberia southward along the Pacific coast before entry into inland regions. The chronological alignment between Rimrock Draw and early coastal sites strengthens this hypothesis. Maritime travel emerges as a plausible primary route into the Americas during a period when interior pathways remained inaccessible. The convergence of dates has increased scholarly interest and reinforced coastal migration as an evidence-supported model. Several early Pacific coastal sites are difficult to study because many are now submerged. Rising sea levels following the Ice Age flooded ancient shorelines. Campsites, tool-making areas, and settlement zones were gradually covered by water, leaving limited remains above modern sea level. This submergence restricts excavation and narrows the pool of accessible early archaeological evidence. Within this research context, Rimrock Draw provides a critical inland reference point. The site contains intact and undisturbed sediment layers that allow reliable dating and artifact interpretation. Evidence preserved beneath a volcanic ash layer adds further confidence to chronological assessments. The site's age aligns with a time when the interior corridor did not exist, supporting models that place early migration along coastal routes. Rimrock Draw also documents the survival capabilities of early human groups. Stone tools and animal bones bearing cut marks indicate repeated and organized processing of game. These activities reflect adaptation to harsh environmental conditions characterized by cold temperatures, sparse vegetation, and seasonal resource limitations. Such behavior implies advanced knowledge of hunting strategies, tool production, and efficient use of available resources. The stone tools recovered at Rimrock Draw differ from classic Clovis technology. They align with the Western stemmed points tradition, representing a separate technological system. This distinction suggests that pre-Clovis populations developed independent technological identities. The presence of multiple traditions indicates greater cultural diversity among early North American populations than earlier models assumed. Archaeological data shows sustained use of Rimrock Draw over time. The recurring presence of tools, flakes, and cut-marked bones suggests that the shelter functioned as a repeated activity area for butchering, hide processing, and related tasks. This pattern indicates that the western interior served either as an early homeland or as a destination for groups moving inland from coastal zones. Artifact distributions point to diverse cultural practices among early populations. The discovery prompts a reassessment of cultural classification in North American archaeology.
Using Clovis technology as the defining marker for initial human arrival becomes less convincing when earlier sites provide robust evidence of occupation. The presence of humans before Clovis challenges long-standing assumptions and encourages the adoption of broader analytical frameworks. Findings from Rimrock Draw support models proposing multiple migration groups rather than a single wave. Evidence suggests that different populations traveled along separate routes and established branching settlement networks earlier than previously assumed. These networks likely promoted regional adaptation, interaction, and expansion across the western part of the continent. The concept of pre-Clovis populations gained substantial reinforcement from this site. These groups occupied North America long before the emergence of Clovis technology and likely contributed to the foundations of later cultures. Clovis appears as a subsequent technological development rather than the initial point of settlement. Rimrock Draw also influences how other early sites are evaluated. Locations with stable stratigraphy, clear artifact layering, and datable organic remains now have stronger grounds for acceptance. The methodological standards demonstrated at Rimrock Draw provide a benchmark for assessing disputed sites. Renewed archaeological investigations are underway across the Great Basin following this discovery. The region's dry climate, open landscapes, and shallow rock shelters often preserve sediments effectively. Expanded survey programs reflect increased interest in identifying additional deep-time sites. Evidence from Rimrock Draw also informs research on early human mobility. Tools made from non-local materials indicate long-distance movement and interaction between groups. These patterns reveal extensive mobility and social connectivity. Overall, Rimrock Draw demonstrates that the settlement history of the Americas is more complex than earlier models suggested. The ancient dates challenge the Clovis first framework and show its limitations in explaining early human presence. The combination of intact stratigraphy, distinctive tools, and datable organic materials establishes Rimrock Draw as a milestone in understanding the earliest populations of the Americas. If you want to continue following valuable scientific discoveries, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss new content.